one of the reasons why I created this space to have these conversations is because there's a lot of people who don't have anyone like that to have the conversation with at all, right? Especially people in America who are racialized as white. I actually talked to an older gentleman, older than me, who lives in a conservative small town outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And he was telling me that in his town, he encounters racism a lot. People openly talking racist, openly saying racist things, just like you encountered in your experience as a child. And he's a grown man going out here trying to, be social and whatnot. And he's just experiencing it out in his town. And he said, it makes him crazy because obviously he feels differently than these people. He hates it. He's constantly finding himself in an uncomfortable situation where he feels like he needs to confront people, and it just makes him want to kind of stay inside. And then, he kind of came to me after finding my group looking for some kind of, I guess, like confirmation that he wasn't crazy to a certain extent, having
Right.
different thoughts than everyone around him. So I think it's so great that you had someone you could go to and be like, hey, so what is this stuff? Like just be like, what is going on here? And to be able to ask questions about specifically genetics and their potential impact in this context is also a rarity, I would say. So that you were able to kind of build that foundation from the beginning and then build off of that probably played a significant role in your evolution of race consciousness.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Because I really did want to know. Part of me wanted to think that maybe there was some legitimacy to it just because of how prevalent it was. It didn't, it didn't seem logical to me that it would be so prevalent if there wasn't uh, like something actually factual to it. And so I was almost trying to confirm that there was a reason for this hierarchy, that it was as I was seeing it and for valid reasons. And the more that I kept looking into it, it just, there was nothing to validate it. That's one of the more frustrating things to me now, because we're talking, 30 years ago, and that these conversations are still being had, and that, some people will still bring up the exact same arguments. And to me, I'm like, we've done this, man. Like like I thought this was put to bed when I was in high school, and but it's still going on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
and and the idea that it was put to bed, right? I talk about this frequently on the show. That is kind of how all of this was presented to me as a child. And so I know exactly what you're talking about when you say you were looking for confirmation. I was never looking for confirmation, but I do think that this is an important point that actually I rarely get to bring up. So I'm going to go into it a little bit and get your reflections on it, which is so my experience was when I was 6 years old, I was asked by a classmate why I don't act black. And I was just like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, you're not in a gang. You don't curse. You get good grades. And he's just rattling off all of this list of things. And like my mind is like literally exploding as a 6 year old, just being like, oh my God, you think that's what being black is?
Right.
And at like kind of a more macro level, what I was realizing in that moment as well is that so many adults had already told me or expressed implicitly that racism was a thing of the past, that these racial divisions were a thing of the past,
Yeah.
that the civil rights movement took care of all that, like Dr. King and everything. And now everything's totally fine. And I believe that because so many people were saying it. It was everywhere, So why would I not believe it? Well, when I have this experience with this classmate at 6 years old, it also made me realize that couldn't possibly be true. I
Yeah.
was like, there's no way both he can believe that that's what it means to be black and the thing that all of these adults told me was true. So I think that having had that experience so early of recognizing, of seeing that counterexample that I couldn't deny, right? That showed me that I wasn't going to find confirmation that what all these adults told me was true because I'm seeing confirmation that it's not. And I have to listen to it and I have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
I think having that experience at such a young age really imprinted on me that it's so important to learn how to think critically and to identify truth. And truth had already become something that was very important to me, even at 6 years old, as somebody who studied fairly high level math up to that time, in fact. And so it was really like a coalescing of my young 6 years of life coming together in that moment. And it really has kind of informed how I go about doing things and thinking about things to this day and the importance that I associate with truth. So it kind of sounds like you really had somewhat of a similar experience in this same context for you. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah. So basically, like you're saying that because all these other people were telling you one thing and then your experience was telling you something else, you were like, okay, I can't rely on the word. I need to seek this truth out for myself.
That's right.
Um,
And not only do I need to
yeah.
seek it for myself, but like I can't necessarily just believe what someone tells me about this or maybe even anything else because if so many people are willing to tell me the same thing that's obviously false, then obviously there's something else going on that I need to figure out what that is.
Mhm. Yeah, well, one of the things, that I did was asking my family members, my parents, what is going like what is racism? What are races? Like what is going on? Have you experienced racism in your life kind of thing? And and I don't know, I never asked why, but it almost seemed like they were trying to brush it away as well. Like it was a thing of the past. Yes, I kind of did, but when we first got here, now it's not that bad, that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest talking points was always the brushing it aside by saying something like, it's just something that a few dumb people believe. That was kind of the common narrative. But I started seeing so many examples of it, and so many examples coming from people that I would not have considered dumb, that I was like, okay, well, it's not just something that a few dumb people believe. Some of the people, I guess, that I would consider to be some of the dumb ones would say like more overt things, but then there are still the other people that are, they might not say something like that immigrants are lazy, but they might bring it as like a scientific racism thing where, well, there's something genetically there that just isn't quite, their IQ levels aren't as, you know what I mean? And so there's an intellectual part of it too, where there's racisms at all levels. It's not just, just something that dumb people believe in.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full length conversation and all of the 2 hour long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.